Good morning, everybody, and let me to warmly welcome you in this conference today from my side. I'm Benedek Jávor, member of the European Parliament in the Green Group of the European Parliament on behalf of the Dialogue for Hungary, Párbeszéd Magyarországért Party. First of all, let me to inform you that the nice decoration is not our design. It's a kind of nice surprise for us as well. Still, when I realized in the morning how the room is decorated, it came to my mind that perhaps this decoration, which reflects to the 60th anniversary of the revolution of 1956 in Hungary against the Russian occupation, has good reasons to be here. First, because I believe that as it happened in Hungary in 1956, not only Hungary, but globally and in Europe as well, we are living in an age of revolution. We are living in the age of energy revolution, which is completely turns upside down everything we knew about energy systems and how we thought about, how we were thinking about energy systems on the level of the nation states, on the level of the local governments, the local communities, and of course on the global level as well. There is clearly a revolution which needs a close evaluation of the recent developments in energy generation, energy management, energy stockage systems which we were believing in the past. And the second thing, because perhaps this decoration has good reasons to be here, is another aspect of energy policies in the Central and Eastern European region, and this is energy independence. And this is something which is in the heart of, or should be in the heart of energy policies in the Central and Eastern European region. And also on the European level, this is something which is heavily debated. It's 2.5 years ago when the European Commission published its energy security strategy, and one of the main goals of the energy security strategy announced by the European Commission in May 2014 was to make an end, or at least to decrease the dependency of the European Union and first of all the Central and Eastern European member states from the Russian energy sources. So there are two things which makes it a kind of proper thing to sit under those decorative elements of the room. First, to understand better, to evaluate, to assess the revolution we are living in, and second, to analyze how we can go ahead with creating independence from Russian energy sources, which has a primary importance in the CEE region. This revolution is clearly happening all over the world. Basically every week we read news about new renewable energy technologies, how solar panel technology explodes the costs of renewable energy generation, falls, what is happening in the energy stockage technology, how China is boosting its renewable energy sector. And we in the Central and Eastern European region and in the European Union have to be competitive on a global market like this. And of course, the European Union reacts on that in several ways. Not only being a forerunner of climate and energy policy globally, and we saw that before the Paris Agreement, the European Union was one of the most important partners in the negotiations before the Paris Agreement, which tried to push the international community towards an ambitious climate agreement in Paris. But also in the European Union we have one of the most ambitious climate and energy targets globally. The EU's climate and energy targets, the 2030 package, which was agreed by the European Council in October 2014, basically on the 23rd of October 2014, so it was right the anniversary of the Hungarian Revolution in 1956 when the Council concluded the 2030 package. It's partly an ambitious package compared to other international commitments and targets. On the other hand, we also have to realize, if we compare it with the necessity of the climate change we understand through the IPCC reports, it's still far from being enough. So we have to speed up the European efforts. We have to make European climate and energy policy even more ambitious than it is. In Europe, on the energy market, on the energy policy, there are a lot of new initiatives and ambitious commitments, including the Energy Union plan, which is the main topic of the Vice President of the European Commission, Mr. Maros Šefčovič, who is traveling around in the European Union to convince the member states to be ambitious, to be active in creating a European energy union, in creating a single European energy market, and to make this single European energy market being more sustainable and to be based on renewable energy and energy efficiency measures, first of all. Also, in the European Union, we are just in the middle of rethinking the regulation on renewable energies, energy efficiency, gas strategy policies, and so on. The new Energy Efficiency Directive, the new Renewable Energy Directive, the gas strategy, and a lot of further elements of the European energy policy are just under negotiations. The European Parliament, when I'm sitting among others in the Industrial and Energy Committee, is just starting to debate those new directives, those new policy elements. And I am very curious that how in the European Parliament we can push to have a more ambitious, a more committed renewable and energy efficiency policy, and are we able, is the European Parliament able to work for making European policies more ambitious in negotiations with the European Council and the European Commission. So the whole market, the whole policy area is moving. There is a revolution, and we have to stay firm and ambitious to stay in line with the requirements of the 21st century. In this area, I believe that the Central and Eastern European countries have a special role and have a special importance. Partly because in some cases those member states are falling behind a little bit, behind of other member states like Germany or Denmark, where we see a lot of very good examples and forward-looking examples how the energy systems can be transformed in a limited period of time. And Central and Eastern European countries sometimes are still living in the past regarding their energy policy. They are still insisting fossil fuel sources or nuclear investment. They are investing a lot of money in energy generation capacities, in energy systems, which belongs to the past, and they don't realize that how important it is to move from, to shift from this traditional 20th century approach to energy systems to a more 21st century, more sustainable, more energy efficiency-based energy system. This is clearly a huge challenge, and this is not only a challenge from an environmental perspective. This is not only a question how we can reduce, for example, the CO2 emissions of those countries. But I truly and deeply convinced that this is a huge question of the competitiveness of these member states in the future. As we see how the costs of renewable energy generation falls from not year to year, but week to week, and how renewable energy generation and energy efficiency is becoming cheaper and cheaper compared to fossil and nuclear energy, I believe that one of the most important mistakes these countries can make is to insist to keep themselves to those energy technologies, to those energy systems, which not on the long run, but in the next 5 years, are becoming much more expensive than the renewable and energy efficiency-based technologies. And finally, this can be resulted in creating uncompetitive energy systems with spending a lot of public and private money in creating those uncompetitive systems, which, besides of that, generate a lot of environmental problems, including carbon emissions and including other environmental problems linked to fossil fuel usage and also nuclear power plants. So we need to speed up our efforts, and we have to convince our governments that this is not only an environmental green question, how can we shift the region's energy policies to a more sustainable one, but also this is a question of competitiveness, economic success, and social success of those countries. That's why a lot of NGOs, including Energia Club and some other NGOs in the region, are focusing their efforts to set up, to create, to model how those countries' energy systems can be turned into a more sustainable energy system based on renewable and energy efficiency technologies. But of course, we see, and there is another special nature of those energy markets in the CEE countries, which needs further discussion. And this is that those countries, let's say with the exception of Poland, that those countries are relatively small, which means that energy markets are also relatively small. And if they try to turn themselves, to make themselves more sustainable from an energy perspective in their energy systems, only within the limits of the borders, this costs a lot. Because to solve all the problems related to renewable and energy efficiency-based energy systems, they try to solve within their borders. This can be done, of course, the technology is able to make it, but it has a relatively high cost. And I truly believe, and that's what I'm working for, and for 2.5 years in the European Parliament, and I was working for that before becoming a member of the European Parliament when I was chair of the Sustainable Development Committee of the National Assembly of Hungary, that we need a very strong regional cooperation. We have to heavily link our energy systems in the region, because most of the problems, the challenges which we have to face with when we shift our energy systems into a sustainable one are related to grid regulation, are related to the regulation of the renewable energy sources, which are dependent on, at least some technologies are dependent on weather conditions, including solar energy and wind energy. But if we create a regional energy system, most of those problems can be solved in a much cheaper way. So we need stronger cooperation that we already have. Still, there is quite a few discussions on that. How can we harmonize the ideas and the strategies we have in those member states? This year we published a study in cooperation with Energia Club and the Wuppertal Institute, which is an alternative and sustainable energy scenario or energy strategy for Hungary. And we faced with the same problem when we were working on this strategy. And that, of course, it's possible to create for Hungary 85% renewable-based energy system, but either we have high costs in the grid regulation part of the system, or we are quite dependent on the regional cooperation, how we can regulate our electricity grids. And that's why I believe that even those efforts which are made by NGOs, political players, and academic research centers are too much focusing on the simple nation-state perspective. And if we are intending to be successful, if we want to create really effective and successful sustainable energy systems for the region, the very basis of that is harmonizing those models, those alternative strategies we have in the member states. And that's why I believe that this has a primary importance to gather those who are interested in modeling renewable and alternative energy strategies for the member states, and who are interested in fostering those in policy making in the member states, to come up to the decision makers not only with local nation-state level proposals for sustainable energy systems, but put on the table proposals which are based on strong regional cooperation. And as a final word, let me to say that this is important not only from an energy perspective. This is important not only because this is the way we can create effective and successful sustainable energy systems for the region, but these small member states are unable to negotiate effectively both on the European and on the global market when it comes to energy issues. But if we unify our efforts and the Central and Eastern European region is able to have one voice on the energy market, is able to negotiate with external energy suppliers, including Russia, together in one voice, that makes this voice much more louder and stronger, and it makes us more effective and successful in negotiating with our partners within the EU and outside the EU. So I believe that we are condemned for cooperation in the region. We need this cooperation, but to be honest, I believe that even those who are in the last couple of years were very successful, or were working a lot on creating sustainable and alternative energy scenarios for their respective countries, still there is a lack for better understanding of each other, for better understanding how dependent we are from each other. And that's why we believed together with Energia Club that we need a forum where we can exchange our views on the future of the Central and Eastern European energy markets, and to have a common understanding of the problems we face with in the region. And we need a strong cooperation with all those NGOs, academic researchers and policymakers who who are intending to make the regional energy system successful, effective, cheaper, sustainable, and alternative. So again, I would like to say thank you for coming. I would like to say thank you for Energia Club for the cooperation, and also I would like to say thank you for the German Embassy in Budapest to be a partner for this event. And I wish all of us a successful exchange of views, to learn from each other, and to have a common vision for the future, to be successful in the future. Thank you very much, and wish you a successful conference.